Yeah, this is not the wholesome Goosebumps we were all used to in elementary school. They dying in these streets. Fear Street, to be exact. In 1994, a group of teenagers discovered the terrifying events that have haunted their town for over 300 years. Based on R.L. Stine's best-selling horror series, Fear Street, 1994 is part one in a trilogy of movies following the town of Shadyside's sinister history. There is no cute and sinister Slappy the Puppet here, y'all. Fear Street 1994 doesn't waste any time jumping into its very, very bloody and very violent, twisty story. It's a great mixture of slasher and supernatural that keeps the intensity high all the way to the credits. Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted Woman here, Chauncey K. Robinson, and today I am doing a spoiler-free review of Fear Street 1994. But before we get into that, I want you to tell me if you were an avid reader of Fear Street back in the day, or were you more of a Goosebumps reader? Or did you have another favorite horror book series that was your jam? Let me know, comment down below. Fear Street 1994 is definitely rated R. Yes, and I point that out because, I think if you aren't familiar necessarily with the Fear Street books themselves, then more so your reference for R.L. Stine is Goosebumps. And Goosebumps also kind of pushes it sometimes when it comes to the horror for younger children and things. But you might also think that it might have a little bit more of that kind of wholesome, even though things get really crazy, everything kind of works itself out. That is not what you are getting here. Fear Street is way more mature. It definitely embraces the blood and the gore in this particular rendition of what that series was about. So just be prepared for the rated R. If that's what you wanted, if you want the blood, if you want the gore, if you want the violence, then you are getting it with this installment. If you are a music lover, then you will probably love the aesthetic of this movie. It really draws you in with the music of setting the tone of, yes, this is definitely the 90s. Maybe a little bit on the hardcore side when it comes to the music, because I think if you minus the music, you probably wouldn't necessarily know that this was happening in the 90s, except for a few of the technologies that some of the characters use. But other than that, it kind of could probably be at any time in our history. A main highlight of this film is that it actually has a good storyline that draws you in. It does a great mixture of the slasher subgenre of horror with the supernatural subgenre of horror, bringing the both of them together to have a nice plot line that goes throughout the whole entire movie. Everything isn't super predictable. I didn't even know where some of the twists were happening, as opposed to, knowing, oh, this person's gonna die next, this person's probably not gonna die, this is gonna happen here. That was not the case. It really did turn some of these tropes that we've seen in some of these types of movies, particularly the slasher movies, upside down when it comes to how certain characters act, what they do, what they look like, and the kind of decisions that they make. And I thought that was a breath of fresh air. This wasn't a checking of the box of everything you've seen before. And as someone who watches a good amount of horror films, to be somewhat surprised with some of the turns that the movie took, I was like, oh, that's different. Wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much. I will also say that the kills are A+ in terms of some of the kills that happen. This movie does not shy away from the blood. This movie does not shy away from showing you the kills, which I wasn't expecting in a way. And when it does show the kills, there are some that are just great in the horror sense. Yes, I'm not like a creeper. I don't you know what I'm talking about. As a horror fan, if you are a horror fan, you know what I'm talking about. When something's just like a whoa kind of kill, there are those moments in this movie. My one drawback is I would say that the main character is a little frustrating at times with some of the decisions that they make, to the point where you kind of wonder if they had made a different decision, had been thinking a different kind of way, would other things that happened would have happened. But then again, it is a horror movie, and one of the ways of any movie to go forward is that characters have to make bad decisions so that plot happens. It's just that sometimes when some of those bad decisions are so obviously something that probably wouldn't have been made except for the point of drawing out the plot, that can get a little annoying. And that did happen a few times in the movie, but not so much where it detracted from the overall quality of the film. My twisted final grade for Fear Street 1994 is an A-. It's a great start to this bloody trilogy.